Unfortunately for us Malaysians, somewhere along the line, these two layers got mixed. That is when you start seeing Malay groups like UMNO, for example, claiming to defend Islam. Indian groups like MIC acting as if they represent the Hindus. Even though they are Indians who are Muslims, and groups claiming to be defenders of Islam, like PAS, for example, seem to focus more on Malay rights, when there are Muslims who are not Malays and Malays who are not Muslims. You also see nowadays, then this is a new development which happened when I came back. I've been following as well from London, but when I arrived back in KL, the issues got more blown up. You also see nowadays Hindu groups like Hindra claiming to act for all Indians, when not all Indians are Hindus and not all Hindus are Indians. Somehow the two layers, ethnicity and religion, became blurred. So the question is, the question that we are trying to address tonight is Islam a blessing to Malaysians? I would say Islam is a blessing to Malaysians if practiced as it should be practiced. The problem is not with Islam. I would say the problem is with Muslims and with those who say that they speak for Islam. Some Muslims and some groups who claim to speak for Islam are simply disastrous. And this is maybe not just applicable to the Muslim community, it can be applied to any people of any religion as well. When we take things to the extreme, it will become disastrous. Although Islam is a blessing to mankind, many Muslims, and I would emphasize not all Muslims, but many Muslims and some Muslim groups, again not all Muslim groups, are simply a disaster to mankind. They seek to impose their beliefs on others. They want to coerce others into living the way of life that they define as acceptable, even within the Muslim communities. And note that I am saying Muslim communities in the plural, because I do not believe that there is only one interpretation of Islam. If you look at Malaysia, there's one more traditional version of Islam, and the government is proposing the Islam Habari. That's already two. Even within some Muslim communities, they say that you must follow their interpretation because they know what Islam is. They know best what Islam is. In short, we have living amongst us Muslims who believe in coercion and imposition, not just coercing non-Muslims into living life the way they say, the way Muslims say, but also coercing Muslims into subscribing to their version of Islam. These people have forgotten that Islam is a non-hierarchical religion. We do not have a central religious body that decides what is Islamic and what is not. If we go back to the golden age of Islam, you will see that Islam was practiced in very different ways. You go to different places, you will see different ways of practicing Islam. I believe that that age was golden because learned Muslims at different places interpret Islam in different ways. And there was competition between the different schools of thought. When Sufism, for example, became widespread in the Muslim world, there were various different orders of tariqah, and you can see it even up to now. When Islamic faith was being developed, there was not just one school, but several. Even in the matter of aqidah, there was not just one school, but several. It was a competition among the various schools that allowed the flourishing of knowledge and wisdom among Muslim communities. So let me come back to my main point that Islam is blessing to Malaysians, but many Muslims, not all Muslims, many Muslims are a disaster. How do we move forward from that? I have been a member of PAS since 1992, and I'm proud to see the party gradually changing for better. I hope you agree with me, some of you may not. I have been very lucky because I have been given the opportunity to deal and communicate directly with many of the top leaders in PAS. Through my association with PAS, I have been very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to get to know many Islamic groups in Malaysia, people like Abdul, Jim, Pembela, Aksi, and many more. I had a chance to chat with the president of PAS yesterday, and we had tea. The usual K.Shanmuga session, the compulsory one whenever you go back to Malaysia, with the treasurer of PAS and the head of policy pusat pendidikan PAS. Ada kedai teh tarik mamak kat sebelah pejabat PAS dan nak laut, kita tahan jap mi goreng je. At the same time, in the UK, as well as my involvement in the British Conservative Party, I have been involved with various Muslim organizations in the United Kingdom, and believe me, the variety of Muslim groups in the UK is even wider than what we have in Malaysia. And I think I have been blessed with the opportunity to actually see and interact with people from various different backgrounds. And looking at Malaysia and Britain, I think there is a common thread weaving through many of the different religious and ethnic-based organizations. They all feel like they are victims, or they feel like they have been victimized at one stage in the past. They all feel like they have been or are being oppressed, and they need to speak as one religious or ethnic group. They all feel like they have to defend themselves from attacks by other religious or ethnic groups. And that is why they group together as one religious or ethnic grouping. It is funny that in the UK, where Muslims are the minority, they feel they need to be defensive about Islam. And you see the same thing in a country like Malaysia, where Muslims are actually the majority. They still feel that they need to be defensive. And their reactions to current issues are almost very similar. They group together to create a group of us versus them. And they appeal to the emotions of the followers. You know, they say things like, kalau kita tidak mempertahankan Islam, siapa lagi yang akan mempertahankan Islam ini? You know, those kind of things, if you translate to English, you're already in Britain. In order to move forward, and as a Muslim, I believe we Muslims have to stop being defensive. Islam is a confident religion. Why is it that Muslims seem to have lost our confidence? Why is it that when others disagree with us, we show them the grace? Maybe not necessarily Muslim, but they believe. Or we insist on putting our beliefs into law, which is just like the grace, is a tool for coercion. I believe that these are all signs of defensiveness, and I believe it is high time for Muslims, in fact, those of any religion, to stop being defensive and to go into what Professor Tariq Ramadan calls a post-integration discourse. Let us debate substantive policy issues that will improve the country as a whole, not just your particular group or our particular group. In order to move forward, we Muslims and Islamists must go back to the liberating values of Islam and formulate policy ideas that are also liberating and fair for everyone. Non-Muslims should do the same. Let us move away from the divisive emotional debates and try to focus on the very positive and liberating aspects of Islam and also other religions. Rather than continuing to talk about emotive issues like race and religion, let us shift the debate to real policy issues. Stop sensationalizing issues like apostasy and threat to Malay rights. You know, when talking about religion, why is it that we like to talk so much, we like to debate so much about apostasy when we know that it is divisive? Why can't we debate education, health, crime, domestic and international trade, economy, public services, schools, universities, you name it, Institut, Integriti issues, you know, and so on. Let me go to some specific examples. Islam promotes choice and defends the right of individuals to choose. Now that is positive. Let us stop all this rubbish about dalam Islam memang ada pilihan, tapi pilihan itu ada haknya. This type of statement is turning a positive into a negative. We should go straight into the positive of choice and find ways to introduce choice into national policies. And I'm going to go into something a bit specific, not in detail, a bit specific, and maybe not very controversial. You know, let's talk about education, for example. The key to building a successful nation. Let's talk about how to introduce choice as Muslims who defend the right to choose. Let us talk about how to introduce choice in our education system, particularly in schools, so that everybody, Muslim or not, would benefit. Let us make sure our education system is fair in the Islamic sense of putting the right things at the right places. For example, citizens in this country all pay taxes, or you should at least.